That was an amazing intro. Thank you. Well, again, hello and welcome to NBA.com plus Angular is equal to game detail. And again, I'm Rachell, and I'm a senior web engineer for Turner Broadcasting, and I work on the NBA.com website. So you're probably wondering, what is game detail? Well, game detail is a web application that was created with a goal to revolutionize the next generation of NBA.com fans. We wanted to move beyond the traditional live game coverage and provide exclusive content across the digital landscape. This is what I like to call the game detail experience.
How do you guard this guy one-on-one?
With a dance!
He's got his dancing shoes on. He's like Fred Astaire.
A dynamite dunk!
Oh, man, was that nasty.
For three and the win. Bingo!
But if we had to break it down into technical terms, game detail is a web application built with a progressively decoupled Drupal and Angular. And with this application, we're able to provide our fans with the best NBA content in the right format and at the right time. By leveraging the best-in-class technology, we're able to focus on providing the best live game viewing experience, holistic of all available mediums. Concurrent live games and 15 game nights are a strong decipher of the NBA. Game detail provides real-time information across all games, thus bringing the game to fans wherever they are on and off the screen. But if we had to talk about game detail in layman terms, game detail is just all about the game. So when deciding on what framework to use, we knew we needed three things. During the planning process, we knew we wanted to pivot away from using a collection of libraries. So we decided on using a singular framework that solved majority of our problems. We also needed a framework that had a really good ecosystem and provided a path for us to integrate with things such as Drupal, third-party plugins such as Dragula, NGRX, and D3, SSO, RESTful APIs, and of course, user personalization. But most importantly, we needed a framework that could handle ingesting over 20 feeds, play up to 4 videos at 1080p simultaneously, and display real-time data across 15 games on a single night. So obviously, we ended up using Angular. And it was because not only did it provide the things we needed, but it also came with a few extra bells and whistles. Like, for instance, Angular provided a path for us to build autonomous pieces that have clearly defined responsibilities and is reusable across the site. Dependency injection made our code reusable and easier to manage, while data binding allowed us to eliminate much of the code we would otherwise have to write to provide a continual view. Everything is streamlined with observables and data integration, thus allowing us to rapidly write HTML that is constantly updating. At first, we were like, do we want to write JavaScript with JavaScript? But we found that TypeScript helped keep our code consistent amongst developers. It made our code more comprehensible as types are explicitly documented, and it provided auto-completion and navigation and refactoring. The music produced by Drupal and Angular is the harmony of back-end and front-end. Services, dependency injection, and classical inheritance share the same programming principles and allowed our developers to switch between the two frameworks easily while integrating. So down to the nitty-gritty. How did we actually use it? The first way was by using the concept of progressive decoupling. And with this, we aim to augment Drupal with a more sophisticated non-CMS logic. We have many components within our application that may or may not be displayed based on a multitude of factors. So we decided to allow Drupal to process the initial request while Angular handled the more real-time or personalized experience. So we created Drupal blocks for the root components, and these Drupal blocks output a little HTML while Angular bootstraps the components being used. And it does this by verifying if a particular selector is available. Let's look at a few examples. Our game detail page has two components. First component is scoreboard, which is within a Drupal block, and game detail, which is also within a Drupal block. And with this workflow, we're able to drop a Drupal block throughout the site and get a component up and running. For example, we decided later on to use scoreboard on the home page. So we added a Drupal block to the home page in a region and kept it moving. Maybe later we'll add game detail or one of our other many components throughout the site, and we can with ease. Angular provides an excellent library for building encapsulated components, dependency injection, a template language with data binding, and a router built on observables. Let's look at the application in use. First up, we have our scoreboard component, which has quite a few nested components. By default, the component displays a list of games for the current day. And it's not playing. Oops. Go back. Okay, so by default, is it playing? Okay, by default, it shows a list of games for the current day. Obviously, I did the screen recording on December 27th. When the application loads, you can choose to scroll through all the games playing that day, or you can select to choose just to view your favorite team or player games. Right now, I'm currently following the Chicago Bulls and OKC. From there, I have the option to toggle between hiding and showing the scores, and by clicking this button, it sends an event both to scoreboard and game detail. Our next subcomponent, which is the date nav, allows you to toggle between future and past games. I might want to see the next couple of days coming up or go through the last past games. Or I maybe even want to see a month view of all the games being played, which I get a nice drop-down calendar, which shows me the number of games being played, and it also gives me the option to select a different day. Each game, which are called score tiles, has unique information, like is the game live, what current quarter are we in, how much time is left in that quarter, where the game is being broadcasted, home and away teams, team stats, and live updating scores. Editors also have the option to send out a game recap or live game stats during the game. In addition to all of this, each game has corresponding videos. I can also drag score tile into this region, and it now sends the event to the video player to tell me which game to be played. And this was implemented using a third-party plugin named Dragula. I can watch up to 4 videos at the same time, and this works with both live and archived videos. Now, a quick breakdown of scoreboard during each game state, and there are 3. There's pre-game, there's live game, and there's post-game. During the pre-game state, score tile shows you when the game is being played and what time zone, where is it being broadcasted, home and away teams, and the team stats. During the live game state, it shows you an indicator that the game is now live, the current quarter, the time left within that quarter, and live updating scores. While post-game shows you that the game is final and what the final score was for that game, in addition to a game nugget, which is information sent out by the editor, which is like a nice recap, like Williams scored 34 points in the game-winning three-pointer. Now, our second component is, my second component is game detail. The first subcomponent is current game score, and this is very useful when on mobile devices as you toggle between the 2 views on those devices. The next subcomponent is League Pass, which gives you the option to watch exclusive content. Upon clicking watch, you get the option to watch the condensed game, the home cameras, or the away cameras. And once you select that, it loads the video for that game. While that's loading, let's look at navigation. During the state of the game, determines which angular routes will be available for the particular game. The routes pass in optional parameters to the support and view component that help it decide what specific content to present. And each route has a different set of components. Like the video route has a list of games that include live or related games, videos tagged by editors. Box score shows you team stats for each player, home and away, like what the player name is, their position, the minutes they were in the game, points, each of which are sortable. The recap is just an article that was tagged by editor in Drupal that just gives a brief recap of the game that was played. Matchup has a few nested components. One is information about the game, like the time played where. You got score by quarter, which is just a breakdown of the score per quarter. You have lead tracker, which shows you stuff like the biggest lead, how many times they were tied. And you have final team stats that shows you rebounds, offensive rebounds, field goal percentages, three-point percentages, all of which were charted using D3. And then the last route is play-by-play, which does exactly what it says. It gives you a play-by-play of the game. Like, did LeBron shoot a three with 11 minutes left in the first quarter, or that a timeout was called 1 minute left in the fourth quarter? And with this, you never miss the action. Now, a quick breakdown of the game states. You notice that during pregame, there's only two routes, preview and matchup. And within the matchup tab, it tells you about the upcoming game, the time, where they're being played, where is it on TV, is it on the radio. The next component is the leaders component, which tells you the last time these two teams played, what the score was, who were the top three players in relation to points, rebounds, and assists, and you have the latest team stats, which shows rebounds per game, offensive rebounds per game, field goal percentage, and so on and so forth, which are all charted using D3 as well. During the live game state, you now have 5 routes, which are video, preview, box score, matchup, and play-by-play. And the components within this state are now updating in real time. This includes the score by quarter, the lead tracker, and live team stats, and it's really cool because the chart changes as the game progresses. The final game state is post-game, and the only difference between this and live game state is that live game has a preview article while the post-game state has a recap route, which has the recap article, and none of the components in this state are changing. This shows the final state of the game. Now, we wouldn't be able to provide this type of experience without live data. On our game pages, again, we manage over feeds in addition to information from third-party APIs. So we needed a simple way to manage all this information across multiple components in order to chart using D3, manage game stats and states, and display exclusive content to authorized users. Creating large asynchronous applications is not the easiest thing to do. And if you know that, then you know all the issues associated with callback hell. So entered into the equation was RxJS and Redux. RxJS took it upon themselves to improve the asynchronous JavaScript landscape. By implementing an observer pattern, it allows us to create streams from events and other sources of data. From there, we can merge, mash, split, and iterate over the data and do something with it. While Redux provides a predictable state container for our application. But if you combine the two, you get the ngRx store, which follows the core principles of Redux, but uses RxJS and is specifically designed for Angular. So if I had to break it down, in our components constructor, we inject the service and subscribe to an application state within the store. Now it is able to observe and react to changes over time using the store select method. The injected service has an event handler that retrieves data from a third-party API and dispatches an action to the store. Each handler uses a store dispatch method to send the desired action type and payload to our reducer. The reducers specify how the state has changed in response to the actions and take those actions and updates the store. An observable stream is then returned to our component subscription each time a new state is pushed. Imagine this is now happening across multiple components at the same time with services that are shared across the application. Our data can now travel with a single push. Angular's framework allowed us to extend its reach outside of game detail and into other areas across the site. And one way was to implement user personalization. So one way we were able to implement this was using our MyNBA component. With this, you see it's not populated with any data, but it allows me to click and select my favorite player and team. I am now on the team website, and now I can follow my favorite team. And here I'm going to follow OKC. Once I select the button, it gives me indicated that I am now following this team. When I go back to the home page, I now see that my NBA is populated with content that has been tagged with my favorite team. Had my team been playing, I would also have received the indication that my team is now playing or that my favorite player was currently on the floor. And in the My Game section, I now see that my favorite team has an upcoming game at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Another way we were able to extend Angular was through dynamic user input and interaction. Our entire search page was created using Angular. So by default, the search page loads all content tagged by editors in relation to videos and articles. In the search bar, I can now filter through the content and search for my favorite player and team. For instance, if I search for Chris Paul, automatically his headshot pops up in addition to any relevant stats in addition to content. Now, what if I wanted to look up Kyrie Irving? Same thing. How about Kevin Durant? Maybe even my player, Stephen Curry. And of course, we can't leave out LeBron James. So now my favorite player or team's content is at my fingertips with a single page load and with a very performant response. So, at the end of the day, with a team of amazing NBA devs, shout out to a few that are here, and with Angular providing all the tools necessary and then some to turn an idea into reality, we were able to create an application that is reusable and scalable across our entire site. Thank you.